so pleased to have Frazier Tsai with us today. It's just an absolute pleasure. And what you may not realize is that you have 2/3, or is it one half of the Let's Go writing team in the room here.
That's right.
We've got like a couple of the big ones. We've got Barbara House-Sakamoto, Karen Frazier Tsai, authors, co-authors, good friends of Let's Go, which is now in its 5th edition. Isn't that fifth edition coming? It's the 4th. Well,
edition.
I'm getting ahead of. There will be a 5th edition. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But it's the 4th edition.
Maybe someday. Maybe we'll see.
Maybe.
The publishing God's willing. If people keep buying it.
Yeah, that's true.
They will. It's a fabulous book. If you don't know it, you should. Let's Go from Oxford University Press. We have a Oxford University Press trainer in the room. Vivian Wang is here from Taiwan, who's going to have the pleasure of seeing
Vivian,
Karen and Barbara soon. I'm going to. Oh, did you feel that? We just zipped over to your classroom.
I sure felt the switch there, Chuck. Woo! Just went for a ride.
I was going to say that Karen and I have been a writing team. We've been writing together longer than. Well, our writing team has lasted longer than most marriages.
I just had a freeze.
It's so true.
I know. It's more than 25 years now, right?
Yep. We started in what, 90?
We were in high school when we started writing.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about age here.
Longer than I've been alive.
No, we've sure.
Yes, that's a good group.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and mute myself.
Okay, well, I'm going to pop out into the background. Me too. And turn it over to you. Have a great session. If you need anything, we're right here in the background. And you know how to move the slides around.
Alrighty. Chuck and Barbara, thanks so very much. I'm very pleased to be able to work together with the two of you, and I'm thrilled to see all of the rest of you here in the room. It's very exciting what we do with this summer intensive, and it is indeed my pleasure to be among so many wonderful educators from around the world this morning to share some ideas. I'm very excited to talk to you about children playing with words. I think that it is probably one of the most important aspects of teaching English. We need to encourage our children to enjoy this language, to enjoy the sounds, to play around with them, to experiment with them. And I'm in Seattle, Washington, where I'm working with the young children of people that have come here for Microsoft and Google and a number of the big name companies. And these people have come from all over the world, bringing their young children with them. And it's interesting to see how the children who have been born overseas are finding their way into the American society and using English. At the same time, it's been interesting to see how the adults are dealing with having to use English and to teach their children things in English to get them ready for school. So it's a very dynamic, exciting situation, and I have thoroughly enjoyed working with the young children that I'm working with here. It's been through the course of doing that I have come to recognize a lot about what Juan said in his the first speech that we had, the first presentation in our summer intensive, that effective learning is really effective learning. In other words, when our students are involved in an environment that is encouraging them to try, encouraging them to learn from mistakes, encouraging them to discover, encouraging them to give it a try, and they do it, and they figure out how to do it, it is far more effective that way than just having them sitting and repeating something or memorizing something. That process of experimenting, of discovering, is so exciting for the kids. And the children I've worked with, even some that are having difficulty to stay still for very long, get so excited that they want to keep doing it. They want to keep playing with the words. And so my whole presentation today is based on the fact that I have seen the positive affective environment of learning by playing, developing into very effective learning. So what I want to do is move on to our next screen here and just spin off a little bit more and say, encourage creative play, encourage fun in the class. Help your children hear the language in a creative, artistic, fun way. Allow nonsense words. That there's that interlanguage that Scott Thornsberry was talking about. As kids and adults are learning about language, we do make mistakes. We are learning from our mistakes, and we need to allow that interlanguage in the classroom and be silly with it, have fun with it. And as the children look at us having fun with it, they're going to be more focused on enjoying and having fun, and they're not going to be so afraid to learn the new things. So create a wonderful, exciting class that encourages play and fun. Now, what we need to do most is we need to work on getting the children to have focused listening. Now, phonics, isn't that what phonics is? It's about the sounds, listening to the sounds in English. How is phonics different from phonemic awareness? Aren't they the same thing? Well, really they are not. And interestingly enough, the more research I have done based on what I'm learning with my children that I'm teaching is that phonemic awareness, the ability to hear the sounds in English that are different from those sounds in whatever the first language is a prerequisite for learning to read in English. If we go straight to phonics and we don't provide the training in listening without looking at letters, we leave a major gap in the children's foundation for moving into reading and moving into figuring out words, sounding them out. We need to start with phonemic awareness, the ability to hear the sounds in English. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, basically, children need to be focused on the sound and not looking at letters. They need to have a chance to be quiet and to listen and really hear the difference. And my one personal anecdote that I have is that when I went to Germany to study at the Goethe Institute many, many, many years ago, I knew no German when I arrived in Germany. And as I was touring around with a group of the students that were with me and we were going to start our German class, we kept listening to the language around us. And the one thing that we always heard was Sie after the verbs. So that is the formal form of you in German. So you will use Sätten Sie, Sprechen Sie, Essen Sie. It's part of the sentence pattern. And I picked up on that very early, as did my fellow classmates. So we were adding that to the English words. We were saying eaten Sie, sitten Sie, walken Sie. We knew Sie was an important part of the German language, and so we were phonemically aware of that part of German. Unfortunately, when I had to visit a doctor because I had a cold right when I arrived, and he expected me to speak in German, and I knew nothing, the only thing I could do was add Z to the end of my verbs, and it made him laugh, and he was really appreciative that I had already started to become phonemically aware of the sounds in German. Now, let me just share with you, there are 3 quotes that I've got here that I think are really important, and we need to remember many readers who are beginning to read struggle because they lack the many, many hours of pre-reading prerequisites that their other classmates have had. And phonemic awareness is really the key. And the second one really struck me pretty harsh because it said it's unlikely that children lacking phonemic awareness can ever really benefit from phonics instruction because they don't understand what the letters and sounds are really supposed to represent. And also, children who lack phonemic awareness may honestly have difficulty sounding out and blending new words because they just really do not know how to do it. So it's an important point that I want to emphasize with one more anecdote here and show you why phonemic awareness makes such a difference. I'm in a chorus here in Seattle, and this last spring we did a concert of folk tunes, and one of the tunes we did was the Chinese tune called Mo Li Hua. And I speak some survival Chinese, but I don't have all of the tones and all of the sounds exactly right. However, I'm aware of them. That was a lot different than many people in the chorus who had no idea of what the phonemes were. So there were three of us that could speak some Chinese, one native speaker and a woman who studied in China, and then myself. So we were trying to help the speakers of English figure out how to say this song in Chinese. And if you notice, I've underlined some of the words that have, or parts of words that are totally different from English. It's not quite half, but almost half of them that are totally different. And if they are not aware of those phonemes, it makes it very, very difficult to speak. But we did our best to try to help them hone in on what the phonemic sounds were so that they could closely approximate the pronunciation of that song. And we did a pretty good job. Thanks, Peggy, for providing that link there on the difference between phonics and phonemic awareness. It's a very good one. Okay, I'd like you to take a moment and I'd like you to try this. Write down numbers 1 to, oh, my numbers got all mixed up on this, but anyway, that is supposed to be numbers 1 to 8. And I want you to read each of those and write a P if you think it's a phonics activity, and a PA if you think it's a phonics awareness activity. Everybody take a moment and read through those, and then we can talk about it after you've had a chance to read through them. Okay, for number 1, type in the screen here if you are telling your partner 3 words that begin B, like in ball. Is that phonics or phonemic awareness? We've got one phonemic awareness, phonemic awareness. Okay, we've got some that are saying phonics. It could be phonics. However, it is primarily phonemic awareness, being aware of that sound B, B at the beginning of the word. Obviously, after we have worked on phonics, then it would be phonics, but in the beginning, it is phonemic awareness. Now, what about if you are reading a story that has words that begin like this? Is that phonemic awareness or phonics? You're looking at words and you are finding other words that begin like this. I see phonics. I see phonics. It is phonics. Why? Because we are actually reading, we are looking at the words, we are reading. And so anytime you're doing something with print, that is phonics. If you're just listening to the sounds and there's no print involved, it is, yes, Peggy, it is auditory. It does not involve print. So if we move to number 3, if we're spelling the word man with magnetic letters, and then we are generating other words that rhyme with it, but we're using letters, that is phonics. That is print, because we are spelling words, we're writing them out, we're using magnetic letters. Number 4, the children are hearing the sounds in words like bat and dog in sit, and they are, every time they hear a word, they've got 3 different boxes that have the b sound, one that has the d sound, and one that has the s sound. Yes, it is phonemic awareness, being aware of the different sounds. There's no print, you're just listening. What about singing Jack and Jill, where you change those initial sounds to ch? Instead of Jack and Jill, it's Chack and Chill went up the chill to chetch a trail of chatter. Phonemic awareness, exactly. Adding M&M words to alphabet books, again, you're writing words. You're putting it's in print. So adding M&M words to alphabet books is phonics. When you're reciting classic nursery rhymes, it's phonemic awareness. And lastly, when you're sorting index cards for words with AT, OT, and IP, that is phonics as well. Now, phonics and phonemic awareness actually can overlap. But the main point in what I'm sharing here is we need to start first with making our children phonemically aware of the sounds in English, those sounds that are different from whatever their first language is. Thank you, everybody, for participating in that little survey. And let's move on into the heart of the presentation. To increase our children's phonemic awareness, and it doesn't matter what the age is, ladies and gentlemen, whether we're talking about children or we're talking about adult learners, we really need to have them play with sound, listen to sound. And yes, it is a great way to reinforce learning by, I guess, Peggy, you were referring to the survey that we just did. I really appreciate everybody doing it. Okay, so to increase our students' phonemic awareness, what do we do? How do we start? What can we do to make them have that skill of really focusing in on the sounds? Well, to begin to develop phonemic awareness, number 1, they have to learn to listen to sounds. Now we say, well, they listen to sounds all the time. Yes, they do, but it's not necessarily focused listening. We have to help them learn to hear rhymes, and we have to help them learn to hear syllables. And yes, Rhett, we can do that very much through songs. We can do it through chants. Just like Jason, our dear Jason, has said, you know, rhythm and rhyme is a great way to help introduce the language to the children so that they hear sounds and they get the rhythm and they get the fluency. So we want to help them, and that's the key. We need to help them hear because they don't necessarily hear. So what can we do? Well, these are just a few examples of what you can do. Number 1, there's a listening activity game. This is a very simple game where everything stops. You put the students in a circle and you have them quietly listen. No other sound is in the room. They're just listening, and they listen for the sounds around them. What you can do is you can have a sound like a bell ringing. You can have a sound like a door closing. You can have a sound like somebody dropping something on the floor. You can do them in isolated sounds, or you can do them sequentially. But what you want the kids to do is focus on the sound. And if you have 2 sounds together, like a door closing and somebody slapping on the desk, you want them to identify those 2 sounds in sequence. It sounds simple. It sounds like, oh my goodness, but they already listen. Yes, they hear sounds, but I'm talking about focused listening on one sound or two sounds. And if your students are not able to identify the sound in English, you can have them identify it quickly in the first language. Because what is the point of this? It's not on language yet, it's on just focused listening. What is the second sound? The second game. It's called the Moomoo sounds game. Put your students in a circle, and you put one student in the middle, and you have another student who will leave and go somewhere around the room. The person who's in the middle has their eyes closed, and the person that has left the circle to go around the room makes a sound, an animal sound, like moo moo from the corner of the room. The child in the middle has to identify where the sound is coming from and identify what the sound is. And if they get it correct, then they are able to be the one that goes to a part of the room and make another sound. It could be animal sounds, it could be car sounds, it could be whatever sounds you want them to use. But the point is, it's focused listening. If you want, you can do it as a whole class. And you can have everybody close their eyes, and you can have one go to the side of the room, and the rest of the class identifies the sound. It's a short activity, but it's focused listening, and it does make it so much more fun. Now, what's in my box? Well, if you do that one, what's in my box? Basically, excuse me, you are putting a bunch of items in the box, and you choose one student to draw one of the cards out. These are all picture cards, samples of picture cards. They're words that the kids already know. And then what you have them do is say, in my box there is a, and let's say they pulled the star out. In my box there is a star. Now that student who pulled that card out also has to think of another word that rhymes with star. So they would say, in my box there is a car. And then you have another student have an opportunity to draw a card out of the box. And they're beginning this process of rhyming, listening for sounds that sound the same and trying to remember words that sound the same that rhyme. You can have the other students help them if a student gets stuck. It's not a game that somebody should feel badly about, but it's just this focused listening again. Now, the next one that is a lot of fun is Bippity Boppity Bumblebee. Bippity Boppity Bumblebee. Bring a puppet, bring a picture, and it is Bippity Boppity Bumblebee is focusing on syllables in the words. So the best way to start it is with somebody's name. So choose one student that you are going to have give their name, and you would say, Bippity Boppity Bumblebee wants you to share your name with me. And let's say that child's name is Jennifer. So Bippity Boppity Bumblebee and the teacher and all the kids are going to clap. Jennifer, 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 Jennifer. Then quietly whisper, Jennifer, 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 Jennifer. And you can go back and forth with it being loud or soft. The point of clapping is the kids are going to be getting the concept that there's more than one part to the word. They are beginning to hear the syllables in English. And by using the names, everybody in the class is aware of one another's names, so it's an easy way to begin. At the end of that, Bippity Boppity Bumblebee, thanks, Jennifer, for sharing your name with me. Again, it's focused listening on syllables, an easy thing to do. Now, what about Old Macdonald Had a Farm? Well, of course, most of our kids have heard that, and if they haven't, do the song as usually is done. Old Macdonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on his farm he had a horse, E-I-E-I-O, and then the horse says, nay, nay, here. But after you've done Old Macdonald Has a Farm the normal way, you're going to do something completely different. You're going to say, Old Macdonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on his farm he had a tiger. Well, that's not normally what's on a farm. Secondly, you're drawing out the sound of the word, you're separating it into syllables, and you want them to guess what the word is. It's a lot of fun. The kids enjoy it. And they, especially because a farm does not have a tiger on it. So they'll sit up and they'll look like, what's wrong with you, teacher? How come you're putting a tiger on a farm? But it's focused listening again. It's a playful way to focus on syllables and to get them aware of it without looking at the word in front of them. They're just listening. Peggy, thank you very much for sending that link as well. I've given some links to Chuck, so I know at some point he will add some more for all of you. Okay, so some other things you can do snapping and clapping. So you could do something like clap, clap, snap, snap, or if your students cannot snap, clap, clap on your lap, clap, 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 clap. And what you do is clap, clap, red bed, clap, clap, big pig, clap, clap, fat cat, clap, clap, dog, log. So what you want to do is just playfully do this game and have the kids repeat words that rhyme. Another variation on that game is to go clap, clap, I say fat, clap, clap, you say cat, clap, clap, I say dog, clap, clap, you say frog. So they fill in the blanks. Again, the clapping helps them focus on having fun, but they're still practicing the language. Another thing that you can do is have them in a circle, and you can have them listening to words that rhyme, like we, be, see, three, and then you throw in van. As soon as they hear a word that does not rhyme, have them sit down, because that tells you that they have recognized that that word does not rhyme. So again, let the kids play with the words. We have not at all done anything with phonics yet. We are doing focused listening, phonemic awareness, and they are just listening and playing and having fun. Thank you very much, Chuck, for adding those additional links. Please do look at them, everybody, because they are very helpful. All right, so what are we letting the children play with? As I've been talking about, we've been working on phonemic awareness. We do this in songs, we do it in chants, we do it in rhyme. Music and clapping and movement is all very important to help the children learn the English words, starting with phonemic awareness. Once they have that phonemic awareness foundation, you move into letters. And then you can move into picture cards and words and start building sentences. Now, I know for some of you, you're going to say, but Karen, we have got this syllabus. We need to cover X, Y, Z within this amount of time. And the point is, yes, we all have that. But if you can take 5 to 10 minutes, a couple days a week, to focus on phonemic activities, you are giving your students a very important skill that leads them to be more confident, independent, and strong readers who are able to sound out new words that they encounter. The main thing in having children playing with sounds is to help them discover for themselves what the sounds are in English. Remember, as I showed that Molihua song, if you don't hear the sound, you cannot sound it out. You need to have help hearing sound. So phonemic awareness activities with games, clapping, songs is really important. Okay, so let's move on into these songs. My Itsy Bitsy Spider song, ladies and gentlemen, I use with my little kids all the time. They love it because they are able to make the spider climb up the spout, and they're doing the gestures, and they're washing that spider out, and they are hearing this song over and over and over again. Thanks, Tatiana. And I think that is the key, ladies and gentlemen, is repetition. Whatever you do, whatever you choose to use with your kids or your adults, especially in the beginning, do something that is repetitive. Do something that they will do again and again. Create an atmosphere in your classroom that encourages repetition, encourages doing things over and over in a fun way. And the more you repeat, the more they are going to hear and get the pattern and begin to develop a sense of that fluency and flow in English. And if you do it playfully through songs and all those rhythmic chants that Jason has put together for older children and others that you can find, your children, your older children, will have more fluency because they've been listening to the songs and they've been getting it. Hey diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon. Use picture cards. I use this with my toddlers. I've got 2 and 3-year-olds that are listening to these rhymes and trying to say them. They don't necessarily say all the words yet, but they're hearing them over and over. And hey diddle diddle, diddle diddle, that is a pattern in English that is not necessarily easy for speakers who are learning the language to do. So if you do it in a fun way, hey diddle diddle, hey diddle diddle, hey diddle diddle, it's playful, it's fun, and they're going to get it. Likewise, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. The kids absolutely love doing this, and you're already teaching them how to form that kind of a pattern in English. It's a great song to use with our toddlers. Now, what else do I do? This is me with the kids in our toddler story time when I'm using a flannel board. We're doing the song about Alice the camel. Alice is a camel who starts off with 5 humps. And the next verse, Alice has 4 humps. And then she loses another hump. She's down to 3 humps. And then she's down to 2 humps. And then to 1, and then none. And Alice is a horse, of course. The kids absolutely love this, and they will help me take off the humps. They want to come up and they want to take off the humps, and they sing right along with me. Even the toddlers, they may not know every word, but they are hearing the language over and over. They're getting the phonemic awareness of the sentence patterns in English, and they are responding to them. Yes, Peggy, they absolutely love those repetitive, predictable songs and rhymes, and it is so much fun to do with them. Wheels on the Bus is another one. This one, they get up and they jump around and they do all the motions. The sounds in there round, go round and swish, swish, swish. They are marvelous phonemic sounds for them to play with. And so all of these songs are very helpful to develop that phonemic awareness. Chuck, thank you for continuing to add some more of those links. Old Macdonald had a farm. As I said, you do it the regular way, and then you can do adaptations. Here, E-I-E-I-O, they're getting this sense of letters that follow each other for spelling. And it's just another repetitive, wonderful song to do with our kids. This did not come out quite the way I thought, and I apologize. It somehow got shifted when I shared this PowerPoint with Chuck. But Apples and Bananas is a song full of nonsense sounds that still follow the patterns of our phonemes in English. So I like to eat apples and bananas is the main sound, the main part of it. But then this song focuses on the alphabets of A, E, I, O, U. And in the subsequent verses, it changes from I like to eat apples and bananas to A like to eat apples and bananas. Like to eat apples and bananas, and then you go on to eat apples and bananas. That's the E sound, and then the O sound. I like to oat opals and bananas, and oot oopals and bananas. Now you're going to say, but Karen, that's nonsense, and nonsense is it's fine. It's funny. It's great fun. And what are we doing here? We're working on those phonemic sounds that the vowels make. Kids love this song. So, Chuck, maybe we can redo this so that that comes out clearer, so that we've got each of the verses listed a little bit more clearly. But it's a lot of fun. So try it. Now, what are some other phonemic activities that we can do? Sound matching and sound isolation. What is the difference? Sound matching is when you start out with one sound, like D. We're not talking about the letter yet. We're talking about the sound, D. And this is to the tune of a London Bridge. Who has a D word to share with us? Share with us, share with us. Who has a D word to share with us? It must start with the D sound. And then you wait and you let the kids say the words that they know with the D sound. And then you put it in the next verse. Dog is a word that starts with D, starts with D, starts with D. Dog is a word that starts with D. Dog starts with a D sound. So that is taking the isolated, you're taking the sound and you're matching words to go with that sound. Second, sound isolation. You've got words that you have them listening to, and then they have to isolate the sound that starts the word. It's a surprise to me, but when I've worked with some of my young children, it's a concept that is hard for them to get, that you separate a sound out. So this song, that is to the tune of Old Macdonald, helps them hear the words that begin with the sound. So you start with the words and then you isolate the sound T, but the kids have to guess. So what's the sound that starts these words? Turtle, tiger, and teeth. Then you wait for the kids to tell you the sound at the beginning of the words. And once they do, then you go, T is the sound that starts these words. Turtle, tiger, teeth. With a ta-ta here and a ta-ta there, here a ta, there a ta, everywhere a ta-ta. You can see how much fun that this will be. Yes, Peggy, I use Rafi a lot. I love Rafi. So thank you for including that link to his lyrics. What's another thing that is hard for the kids to do? Believe it or not, blending sounds can be a challenge. So this is to the tune of If You're Happy and You Know It. So if you think you know this word, then shout it out. If you think you know this word, then shout it out. If you think you know this word, then tell me what you've heard. If you think you know this word, and shout it out. K-at, k-at. And then the kids shout it out. And you can do this with a number of words. It's a great way to help them learn how to listen for the sounds that blend together to make a word. And it's a lot of fun. Okay, now, playing with what they know. Playing with phonemic awareness. Once you have practiced songs or you've practiced nursery rhymes, then you can play around with it and sing a song of sixpence, reverse it, song a sing of sixpence. Oh my goodness, the kids would love to try to catch you making a mistake. Baba pink sheep, substitute words. Twinkle, twinkle, little car. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall on a sat. Swap the word order. I'm a tiddly-pot. Swap the parts of the words. 1, 2, shuckle my boo. Swap the word parts. Again, after you've played with these nursery rhymes, now you're giving them a variation on it and you want to see if they pick up on it, if they catch it. Kids absolutely love to make up words and play with them. And for sure, Peggy, they are giggling when they're doing this. And it's fun for me too, fun for you as the teacher. Okay, so I have focused primarily so far on the phonemic awareness. Once you get through working on phonemic awareness, then you start playing with letters. This has been so much fun with my kids. I've got these old-fashioned blocks and we put them down and they like to make their own combinations of letters because they've begun to realize that, they've already learned how to say the letters. That by now they know the alphabet. But now they're just playing with putting them in order. And I have one student who spends so much time just putting them in this random long string of maybe 12 letters, and then he wants me to help him sound it out. And together we sound it out. And again, I am doing more of a one-on-one class, so I'm able to give him that kind of time. But there is a way that you can set up your classroom so you've got some, 5 minutes here or there during the week where you can work with the students and play with them and help them sound out these letters, or have them do it in groups. This is my student who took my picture cards and he created his own matching activity. I said, I want to match. So he lined them up like this, and then he found the match and put them right beside him. And then we started pulling out a card, and by now we had already started introducing some of the sight words and the can. And we would sound out the can because now he's phonemically aware and he can sound k, a, n, k, a, n. And so we played with these cards and the letter blocks over and over and over again. And yes, learning centers would absolutely be a great place for this. Then, this is the same young boy, as I told you, playing with the blocks, putting them in the alphabet order, saying the alphabet. I would take an alphabet letter out and he would say them. And then he was creating his own word combinations. Nonsense words, but words that have some phonemic value to them, with sounds that he's heard. He discovered what words worked, what words were not real words, and it was the more he did it, the more he wanted to do it. And I think that's the thing about letting kids play with words. If you can allow that time for them to manipulate blocks, or if you don't have blocks, bottle caps like Marco Brazil does, or pieces of paper or whatever you have. It doesn't have to be an expensive thing, but just have them manipulate the letters and try to put them in some kind of a word form. It's great fun. Then, of course, we go into working on these key three-letter words and matching the words with the pictures. And we build up the words that they know and practice sounding them out. And I have all kinds of things that I have used with them to do this. I picked up the game blocks and things that will isolate the rhyming part of the word from the initial consonant, and they match them with the pictures. And we've had so much fun. And then I have one little boy who has a hard time sitting in one spot. But by playing this kind of a game or doing this activity, he has sat still for such a long time to try to figure out words. And he loves to make nonsense words and have me help him sound them out. And we laugh and we play, and he's learning. It's this same little boy that as I moved him into reading books and writing sentences using popsicle sticks and sight words and pictures on the top of the cards, he did not want to just do it with those little popsicle sticks. He loves cars. And so this is a Velcro poster that has all kinds of vehicles you can Velcro on this city scene. But he also has his own favorite cars, so I let him bring the cars there. And we talked about, I see a helicopter, or I want I can't see what this is here. I want a plane. I want my red car. We built sentences playing. Basically, ladies and gentlemen, the bottom line is whether you've got a large class, you have a small class, you should try to allow time in your class for children to play with the words. As Scott Thornberry said, there's an interlanguage. We need to allow that interlanguage. We need to allow discovery. We need to allow the children to kind of take charge of their learning, because just like you and me, When we have an opportunity to figure it out on our own, playfully, through manipulating letters, through games, through songs, and if there's that sudden aha moment when you get it. And it helps if you're doing it through a playful, fun activity and in a playful, fun classroom where that effective part of the classroom is so much a part of the learning. Ultimately, it will be more effective. Therefore, whether it's adults or whether it's young children, I believe that we can add phonemic awareness training to a class, couple 5-minute periods a week, and it will be helpful for adults as well. My biggest concern for the adults that I tutor here in Seattle is they have come with brilliant backgrounds. They've come from some of the very best schools around the world, and they're now parents of their young children, and they are very concerned that even though they have studied English for many years and they have scored well on the exams, that they're afraid to read to their children. They're afraid that they're not going to give the children the right English. Therefore, I believe if we give the adult learners as well as children a chance to develop phonemic awareness, they will develop more confidence in their ability to hear the sounds because they will actually be hearing them. But again, it needs to be done before phonics, before print. Phonemic awareness is a listening training, and so we need to incorporate in that in our classes. Peggy, you are exactly right. They will remember it much longer when it's learned and practiced in a playful way. Ladies and gentlemen, I have come to the end of the basic information that I wanted to share with you today. Is there any question that you have, or can we have some discussion together? I noticed you said that it reminds you of using Cuisinart rods in silent way. Great for visual learners. Yes, there are children who absolutely need to do things visually, and this is a way to help them learn. What's really been fun for me, especially with this one boy that I used this felt poster with, is that he really does have trouble sitting for very long, but he's brighter than bright, and he wants to create, and he will tell me stories using the words that we've been studying, and he will talk about his cars and talk about his trucks. And so I take what he has told me and I write it down in a simple story, and then I print it out, and many of the words are words that we've already talked about. So he begins to read his simple story using these sight words and the simple words that we have been studying. Peggy, I'm sorry, can you talk about that phonemic awareness starts even with babies as you babble with them? Absolutely, Peggy. I mean, this is the thing, as teachers of English as a second language, an additional language, we need to remember that when babies are learning their language, whatever their first language is, they're babbling. They have that inner language. They're playing. They're trying to come up with the sounds of the language. That's why I really love that Apples and Bananas song, because you're playing with the language. We need to allow our kids to have some time to babble. Of course, we need to teach them how to say the words correctly and all the things that we do when we're teaching vocabulary. But you need to give the kids, whatever the age, a chance to just play with the words. And as I said, one of my students likes to put together a string of letters and then figure out how to sound them out and see what kind of funny words he makes. It's babbling in a little bit more grown-up way. Rhett, you speak nonsense to your kids, to your students all the time. I bet they really enjoy that. And Judy, I know that you're teaching in New York City. You probably have a lot of students there that have come into your classes from a number of different places. Do you find that you're able to do that phonemic awareness activity type of thing in your classroom through centers that they work at? It is really important for kids to hear those phonemic sounds that are not part of their first language. That's great, Judy, that you do emphasize that with your adult learners. Haifa, can phonemic awareness be associated to mindful learning? Can you give me a little bit more detail about what you're referring to? I mean, mindful as in having a very specific kind of thing that they're trying to learn, they're mindful of what's going on. Can you give me a little more detail? What has really been fun is I do a story time with toddlers, and we have people that are from a wide variety of language backgrounds. We have French, we have Indian, we have Chinese, we have Korean, we have Japanese, we have Russian, and we have a playtime before we start the story time, and it's really amazing to see how these kids are working together to learn the phonemes and to learn the songs. And regardless of their language background, they are definitely, with repetition each week, we have a pattern we follow. They are definitely learning those phonemes for English. Haifa, I believe that mindful schools, really are probably focusing on phonemic awareness as you're developing the senses. I mean, in order to speak a language, you need to surround yourself with the language. Your senses need to be in tune with the various sounds that they hear. And as Jason has said, when we're clapping and when we're doing music, there's something about the connection between music in our brain and sounds that helps us hear and feel um, the music, and we just learn it. And one of the things that I found interesting in doing some research is that most of the popular songs that really hit it big here in the United States in English are songs that are simple and they have repetitive lines. Think for a minute about Happy by Pharrell. You know, because I'm happy occurs over and over and over. And the rhythm is just, it gets you excited, it gets you moving. That combination of rhythm and repetition and surrounding yourself by sound, it makes it very easy for people to learn the song and remember. Likewise, the song that was so popular about a summer or two ago by Carly Rae, which is Call Me Maybe. How many times does she say, so call me maybe, so call me maybe, so call me maybe? Repetition, using the key sounds of the language, is key for our students to become phonemically aware, and it sets the foundation, as Judy is saying, for them to hear sounds that helps them when they begin reading. If a child has not been given, or an adult has not been given the opportunity to hear the English phonemes enough, it is very hard for them to encounter a new word and try and sound it out, try to figure it out. Therefore, that's why I'm saying it is critical for us to work on phonemic awareness. What the Fox says. There's so many songs and there's so many books. I personally love Dr. Seuss books, and I know there's mixed feeling about, the value of that versus Caldecott books, but books that have won the Caldecott medal. But honestly, I believe that one of the positive benefits of the Dr. Seuss books is the phonemic awareness. If you are reading the books to your students before they look at them, but they're hearing those sounds, they're going to internalize the English phonemes by listening to Dr. Seuss stories and other great authors' works where they repeat sounds. Yes, Judy, I agree. Tutoring younger students who are American born, but really second language learners, it's very essential to work with them on phonemic awareness because often they've been born here, they hear a little bit of English, but at home they may still be hearing a lot of their family's language. And you just need to train their ears. It's muscle development. When we're doing phonemic awareness, we're training our ears to hear different sounds. Going back to learning Chinese and learning that song, if you cannot hear the tones in Chinese, you cannot hear them. You need to retrain your ear so that you can hear things. Likewise, when you're trying to speak, you need to train the muscles in your mouth to speak the phonemes of the second language. Our muscles, it's like anything. You've practiced, it's automatic, you just do it. So you have to help the muscles in your mouth and in your brain learn the new phonemes. Songs and chants and all these games are a way to help our children and our adult learners retrain their muscles so that those muscles can also do the English phonemes. Hi, Shelley. Welcome. Glad you're here. Whoops, I guess, yeah, glad you're here. Well, are there any other points that you would like to share? I really do appreciate the input from all of you. I appreciate the fact that you do see the value in phonemic awareness, and I would really like to encourage each one of us to share with our colleagues how much we need to consider adding some element of phonemic awareness in our teaching, no matter what the level. And, to emphasize that by having fun and playing with the sounds, we actually are providing a fundamental skill that leads to better reading skills, to more confidence in reading and speaking. And my whole goal, my passion, is to develop confident users of English. If it's not 100% grammatically correct, that's okay for a while because it's interlanguage. They're changing their language, but I still want people to be confident in speaking, reading, and trying to use the language. And I firmly believe that the fundamental beginning is to help them develop phonemic awareness.
Thank you, Karen.
You're
That was
welcome.
fabulous. I've been sitting here thinking, I work with adults, and what I found though is that adults love to play with language too. And I had this
I
class of older students. Some would call senior citizens, and they love to play these. They love to sing these songs and play these games, and yeah, everybody likes to play, not just
Well,
kids.
you're mentioning that too, Chuck, because this group that I work with, we're working with people of all ages here in Seattle, and we have a senior citizens class. And right now, it's primarily women with a few men who are speakers of Russian and a few other scattered language languages, and they like playing with the words.
Mhm.
They really are trying to figure out how to wrap their mouths around the new sounds, and it's so funny to hear them, as they're playing with the
And it seems
sounds.
that with adults too, playing with words, it takes the pressure off of them for feeling like they've got to get it right. So with
Exactly.
the Bibbidi Bobbidi Bee songs and things like that, they feel like they're just having a good time and they don't have to feel bad about getting a sound wrong.
It brings out that inner child in
Exactly.
them, right? Wasn't it? Was it Juan that said something about
Yes.
that in his presentation? We need to encourage that in our classes. We need to make people feel that it's okay to be silly,
Yes.
whether it's an adult or kids.
Exactly. I really enjoyed this presentation. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions? Peggy just brought up a really interesting thing about music being such a powerful way to remember for people with
Yes,
Alzheimer's too.
Peggy, that is definitely a very moving example of something that is so true. I've heard other
That's a,
examples of, in those final days.
Shelley's point about
But
working with the refugees too is wonderful.
yes, yes, I agree, Shelley. Thanks for sharing that. It's great learning with everybody. I really appreciate the input from everybody, and I learn too as I'm, talking with you and reading what you have to say. So thanks. It was
Thank
fun.
you, Karen. It's such an honor to have you with us. And I really appreciate you
It
taking
was my
the
pleasure.
time early on a Seattle morning. And
No
I
problem.
hope you go on to have a great rest of the day and a great rest of the summer as well.
Well, thank you. I wish you the same and everybody, enjoy.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take us back to the lobby, so everybody hang on. Here we go.